Well, this just happened. Hi everyone, Drea from Aloha Plant Life here, and in case you couldn't tell by the opening scene, I just bought some new plants. These are actually, I'm gonna call this my birthday plant haul. I did just turn 40 on January 23rd. I decided to spend turning 40 on a beach in Hawaii. So I got together with my friends after I got back, and a lot of them gave me cards for plants, or in this case, an actual plant. So I figured I would include this actual plant, even though it was a gift, in the birthday plant haul, and kind of just talk to you about the plants that I got, and then kind of what I do with plants that are new to my home when they first come in. So these three plants, first of all, this one has been here with me for about a week, and it's been sequestered away from any of my other plants. I always do that, and I highly recommend that you do as well if you can. Keep them separated for a while just to make sure no bugs that maybe you didn't notice when you first got your new plant pop up. You don't want any kind of diseases or pests showing up and having already put your plant with your other plants, have it spread to those plants. Another nice thing about keeping them away from the other plants is typically where I have to put them, which is actually typically right behind me on the countertop over here by the stove, has a lower lighting situation. So it's always good to acclimate your plants from a light standpoint when you bring them home. You want to start them out in kind of similar lighting to what they were in the nursery or greenhouse where you purchased them, and then slowly move them into what the appropriate lighting level for that specific plant is. So like I said, this plant's been sitting over there for about a week. It's doing pretty good. So took a look before I started filming here, and I'm not seeing any kind of pests on here. This is a rattlesnake calathea. I do actually already have a couple of rattlesnake calatheas, but they're so pretty and they actually do really well for calatheas. If you are one of those people who struggles with calatheas, with them getting too dried out on the leaves and things like that, rattlesnake does a lot better than some of the other ones. Happy to have another one. I still haven't 100% decided where it's going to live permanently yet, but she did buy me this cute little blue pot to go with this too. But this plant is looking pretty good. It was well watered when I received it, so I have not watered it yet. It has not completely dried out. I feel like it's getting well, the pot feels light, like it's getting a little dry, but the soil still is pretty moist, so it's probably just in a really airy potting mix. Once again, doing pretty well here. So this plant is gonna be ready for my next phase, which is I typically will give them a preventative spray down of sorts. Most of the time that's gonna be with neem oil, unless it's a plant that I know doesn't tolerate neem oil very well, then I might use some kind of other method. So this one does well with neem oil, so it will get a neem oil down on both sides of the leaves just as a preventative measure in case there are some tiny bugs that I can't see on there. Hopefully it will take care of them, but it also kind of acts as a deterrent towards any insects that I might not know about elsewhere in my house trying to take up residence on this plant. So I will be doing that off camera. I do this time of year in winter when it's chilly outside. I do it in my shower. I have a big glass shower in my master bathroom, and that's just the easiest place for me to do it. I just set it in there, and like I said, spray all sides of the leaves down, let it dry, and then I'm going to start slowly moving it into brighter light. Not immediately, but putting it in a brighter place than the kitchen counter. So I'm going to go ahead and set this guy aside over here. So these two plants I picked up today. My same friend who gave me that plant also gave me a gift card to a local nursery where I do a lot of my plant shopping and pot shopping and other supplies. And so I went and I had been looking, and I've been wanting an Alocasia bambino, which is what this is, for a while, but I kind of kept thinking, I don't know where I'm going to put it in my house yet. I'm trying this year to not buy a plant unless I know where I'm going to put it in my house, which obviously I just failed miserably at, but you know, hey, it's only a few plants that I've gotten so far this year. So I just kept looking at it and they looked really good. It wasn't crazy expensive. This is actually two plants in one pot. If you can see there, two separate plants. So whenever you see that, I'm like, you know, this is, it was $17 before tax. That is not that bad. This is a decent sized plant. It is definitely well rooted. If this was not a well rooted plant, I don't know, I might still pay that much for this. I mean, technically you're getting two plants, but I did take a peek at the bottom of this, and I highly recommend you always take peeks at your plants in the store. Can you guys see those roots that are curling around, those big white roots that are curling around the edges here? and all the way around. So I'm almost 100% positive this thing is already starting to get root bound. I'm gonna slip it out of its pot while I've got you guys here with me so that we can see what we're working with. But yeah, it looked like a very healthy plant. Some of the leaves down here are look like they're about to die off, but these are obviously super probably old leaves. And you know, that's just part of the life cycle of plants. Just like you shed hair, plants are gonna shed leaves. That only certain times that shedding leaves becomes a concern, right? So right now, the rest of this plant looks super healthy. This is just normal kind of leaf loss. This plant is pretty dry right now, not totally dry, but not nearly as wet as some of the other ones they had at the store. So it's gonna make it a little bit easier for me to get it out of the pot. I'm gonna grab a tray from right behind me here, just so I have something to catch all the dirt. But I just wanna see how potentially root bound this plant is and if I'm gonna need to repot it up a size here soon. And I will tell you, lots of times I will try to slide pots or plants like I'm about to do out of their pots at the store just to check their roots. I have had issues in the past where I have bought plants that already had the start of root rot and you couldn't tell without taking them out. So the easiest way to get them out, you want to grab as much of the plant as you can, but gently, so you don't want to squish or break any stems. And then you just kind of squeeze the pot. And if this was a bigger pot, I actually hug the pot. People think it's weird, but you know, give it a little squeeze. It helps loosen it up. And then as you can see, you can just pull it right out. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So you can see it is getting pretty root bound at the very bottom, but there's not a lot of roots showing up here. They're just kind of starting to go up. So it's kind of an interesting situation. This might be a kind of a situation that when this plant was potted up, it might have been set slightly too far down in the pot. And maybe they were going from a very small situation up to a bigger situation pretty quickly. So those roots are just all rolled around down there on the bottom instead of coming up around the sides. I would not pot this up right now into a bigger pot. I just don't feel like that's quite enough root development there to warrant it, even though it is very bound on around the very edge of the bottom, but it is just the very edge. So I've got this back in here. I'm just gonna tamp it back down in here. So the next thing I do, and at the store, I always check for bugs. So I'd already looked for bugs on this. I didn't see any problems, but once again, I'm still gonna keep it isolated back here for at least a week, just to make sure nothing pops up. So another thing I like to do when I get my plants home, especially aeroids, because for some reason they always just have the dirtiest leaves, I guess because they have such broad leaf structure, typically, that they attract more dust and dirt. So whenever I get them home, I like to wipe them off. So I've dampened this little cloth here, and I can see this is so dusty. There's something pink on here that I don't even know what that is, and I didn't even notice it at the store. I suppose it could be from some kind of foliar spray or something that's really pink. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's turned this pink. So I'm not sure exactly what that is. It's coming off. It obviously hasn't caused any damage to the plant. So you're just gonna go around and you're gonna wanna wipe off definitely the full top surface of the leaves, but I like to also give the underside a little wipe down. So I will go around, I'm not gonna do this whole thing on camera with you guys because you guys are gonna get bored of watching me wipe leaves, but I will go around and wipe all the leaves down on this plant. That's gonna help it to be able to take up the light better. And this is something you should always be doing on a fairly set schedule. I think I do most of my, well, depending on the plant, because some plants get dustier than others. Like my Monstera, I probably wipe those leaves down about once every 1.5 to 2 months. Some of my other plants, I can go about 3 months before I wipe them down. It just depends. You'll notice like if they look dusty, and if they look dusty, then that's your cue that it's time to give your plants a wipe down. If they are broadleaf like this and it's really easy to wipe them down with a cloth and there's not a ton of leaves, that's how I do it. But if you have a plant that is really bushy, tons of leaves, compact, like maybe a syngonium, that's gonna be a nightmare to try to individually wipe down the leaves. In that situation, I usually either take it to my sink, turn the sink sprayer on to not too high of a setting and just kind of spray them off, or you can take it in the shower, let the shower do the job for you. It's kind of like how they get washed off in nature, rain, right? All the rain comes down, washes them off. So that's another easy way to help get the dust off your plants. So this guy I'm gonna go ahead and set aside here. I don't know why all the plants today are guys, and I don't know why sometimes plants I assign female genders to and male genders. There's really no rhyme or reason, you guys. I just look at a plant and I'm like, oh, look at that little fella, or look at that little gal. I don't know, it's weird. There really is no like logical reason to it. And I do have some plants that I don't actually assign any gender to. Go figure, it's just weird. It speaks to me. Whatever it's telling me is what I call it. So this plant haul was one plant that was a gift, and then these two plants, and I definitely went over beyond the gift card that was given to me, but I did have some other birthday money as well that I used on this, and then I did use a little bit out of pocket, primarily because of this guy. And this is why this is just a couple of plants here that I bought. This is an Alocasia cuprea. If I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. And I have not seen one in person in any plant stores in my area ever. So I saw this and I was shocked, because this nursery that I bought these plants at, that I go to frequently, typically doesn't carry super rare plants or super pricey plants. And by pricey, I mean pricey for like the size they are. Obviously, if you're buying like a giant Dieffenbachia and you know, that's like as tall as me, it's gonna cost you more than a little Dieffenbachia in like a 6-inch pot. Last week, I originally went into this nursery and I saw that they had philodendron silver swords, which also are kind of hard to find around here and typically pretty pricey. And they were in 6-inch pots and they were full, they were big. They took up more space than this one. They were asking $100 for them, and I was just shocked. I was like, I can't believe they're carrying this. They don't typically advertise or specialize in rare plants. So I was like, that's interesting. So then I was wandering around and I saw this, and I was totally caught off guard because I really did not think I would see this there. And there are two different locations of this particular nursery. I live right in the middle of the two of them. So this is at one of them. I just happened to stop in because I had that gift card. So I kept looking at this plant and I was like, you're not doing it. You're not spending $70 on a plant. This is $70. I do think that that might still be a little bit overpriced for this plant right now, I think. But I think it depends on where you live. I know people in Canada who have gotten this for probably cheaper. I feel like they're easier to find up there for some reason. And because they've been becoming easier to find, the prices have been going down a bit. But once again, I've never seen one here, and this is in a 6-inch pot. It's obviously got a lot of leaves going on here. So this is not like just some little cutting or anything like that. So really, 70 is not that bad for that in my mind. But at the same time, I'm like, this is the most expensive plant that I've ever purchased. And I don't feel bad admitting that. Okay, wait a minute, I take that back. Let me rephrase that. This is the most expensive houseplant I have ever purchased. I did fulfill a lifelong goal of buying a Japanese blood-good red maple tree last summer. That's the most expensive plant I've ever purchased. That was a whole tree, right? So anyways, I kind of looked at it and I was like, okay, you're not doing this. And then I looked at the bambinos and I was like, I just don't know where I'm gonna put it, like I said, and so I left. So then fast forward to like not even a week later when I decided, well, I'm just gonna head up to the other location of this nursery, the opposite direction of me, and I'm just gonna go see if they have something else different maybe that I want. Then I saw this again and I was like, oh. And in the back of my mind, you guys, I was thinking like, and maybe they'll have those cupreas too. Like, I really think I was having like regret for not buying it. And then my other thought was, surely word has gotten out that they have these and now there's gonna be none left. But apparently word either hadn't gotten out, or like people also were like, I can't spend that money on that plant. I don't want to spend that much on that plant. So they were still there, and they actually had more than the other location, and they actually looked a lot better. And so that's kind of what got me. I started pulling one out and then the other, and they all just had a ton of leaves like this. The leaves all look really, really good. There is a hole in one of the smallest ones here, but it's not that big of a deal. And I was kind of like, finally just said to myself, look, it's a birthday present. You were gifted gift cards for your birthday. That's gonna help lower the cost out of your pocket personally for this plant. Just do it. Now, why I still got this one too, that's a whole nother story that I can't answer for you. I just kept looking at it and thinking I'm gonna regret that one later. So anyway, so this one was pretty much bought on my own dime. All the birthday presents helped with this one. I also did discover when I went to check out that I had a $5 discount from rewards points for previous purchases at this nursery. So that was like a bonus. I also had a coupon for 30% off for my birthday that they had emailed me. So yeah, that all kind of worked to where I didn't have to pay a ton out of pocket for this. I feel a little bit better about it. I'm just really hoping that this plant is going to do well for me. My biggest fear about spending that much money on a plant is that it's gonna, you know, I'm not even gonna say it. Y'all know what my biggest fear is. I want this plant, the opposite of my biggest fear is my biggest hope, which is to have this plant for years and years and years, right? So really love this plant, and part of me also, when I looked at it, was like, am I just wanting to get this because it's the rarest plant I've seen in a while in person around here, that's not like $1,000 rare. And so if you can, let me get in here so you guys can see this a little bit better. Hopefully it'll read right. So that's one of the most mature leaves. So if you can see, it's got like a reddish black coloring to it, and the undersides of these leaves are very, very rich, deep reddish color, almost a little bit purplish on the underside. Typically on the top side, I think they read a little more red than purple. And I was like, well, do I really even like this plant? And the answer is yes. And there are multiple reasons. The first time I saw this plant was in one of the Crazy Plant Guy's videos on YouTube. If you haven't checked him out, go check him out. And he came across one of these in a shop, and he ended up buying it for himself. And I was just really stunned by it. And I was like, it was really, really pretty. I've always been attracted to dark leafed plants, reddish leafed plants. One of my first aroids, this is also an aroid, same family as the bambino over here. One of my first aroids that I bought is actually one of my first outdoor plants at my new house here. And that was a taro plant, and it was a black coral taro plant. So it's also very dark, like this, and a reddish. I think my taro plant's a little bit more purplish than red. But yeah, so it's just, I know I'm attracted to that kind of coloring on leaves and everything. And the other thing I really, really like about this one is you can see how shiny that leaf is. I haven't cleaned these leaves yet, you guys. I just brought these in and decided to spontaneously film this video. So if I see them all over the place, that's why. So the shininess here reminds me of an Alocasia mirror face, and I unfortunately do not own one to splice in here, but go Google it, look it up. I think actually Plantarina, you might be able to find, they might actually sell them on their site, so that might be an easy place for you to go look to find some good pictures of them. But it has this very reflective leaf surface that is just gorgeous. It catches the light. Like, it's just a really pretty plant, you guys, and I'm feeling pretty good now I brought it home, especially now I'm talking to y'all about it and looking at it on this camera here while I'm filming it. I'm really feeling good about this. So I am gonna get this one all wiped down just like I was doing with the other one. This one does have more texture on the leaves, and these leaves are pretty delicate. So I'm gonna be very gentle and careful in wiping down. I'm also going to get a different rag. Do not use the same rag to wipe down all of your new plants, because if they do have pests you can't see, you're gonna spread them to the plants, okay? Another good tip for you guys there. If I do find that I'm having a hard time getting these cleaned off enough without feeling like I'm accidentally gonna tear the leaf, then I will take it into the shower and give it a spray down under the shower water. Just trying to be careful though, because this plant has recently been watered, so I don't want to overwater it. So I'll just be tilting it and carefully getting the leaves in there to rinse down. And then this will also live quarantine on the opposite side of the counter from the bambino behind me for at least a week. And then I am going to have to very carefully acclimate this one in. From what I know, from what I've seen from other people talking about this version of plant and their experience with owning it, is that it is a little bit more delicate in nature than some of the other aroids and the other alocasias. And so I am going to definitely very slowly move it into brighter light. I know that it's not going to want to be in direct light ever. None of these really want to be in direct light ever. I do think the bambino might be able to tolerate like an east-facing window where it's getting a little bit of direct sun in the morning, but then it's all indirect for the rest of the day. But once again, I would need to acclimate it slowly to that. This plant is not going to want that direct light. It is going to need to be in an indirect situation. Once again, I'm not exactly sure where it's going to live yet. I'm going to kind of gradually move it into some other places and see what it likes. Usually they'll let you know pretty quickly if they like it or not. My other big concern right now, bringing both of these plants in, well, to be honest with you, even the rattlesnake's a slight issue this time of year, or concern, is bringing these in during the winter. Typically and that's another reason why I kind of was like, I'm not buying it the first time I saw it at the store. Typically in the winter, these plants all want high humidity, and I live in North Texas, as you know, and it doesn't get like super duper cold except for maybe like 1 week, which was this past week here, a year, but the humidity level does drop pretty drastically during at least 1 month of the winter, sometimes a little bit more. And if you check out, I have a humidifier video that will be coming up soon. And when you check that out, you'll understand that I also have an open floor kind of concept downstairs. So running humidifiers really does nothing except for the plants that are directly around the humidifier, because the open floor plan, you would have to have so many humidifiers to get the whole downstairs or even just my whole living room humidity level up to what these plants want. Ideally, I really would like to have an inside greenhouse cabinet. Unfortunately, with the supply chain issues, IKEA, and I want to use one of the IKEA ones, has been out of stock, so I haven't been able to do it. So that was another concern of mine bringing these in, is if they're going to be able to tolerate the next probably 3 to 4 weeks of still low humidity. So I may have to relocate a humidifier over here to my counter while they're acclimating, or alternatively, I suppose I could just do more cooking that involves boiling water, because that will create a lot of humidity for them as well. I think the bambino will be fine. I'm more concerned about this one. Like I said, the rattlesnake calatheas have done well for me even in the winters, so I'm not really worried about that. My other one is right by a humidifier though. So yeah, this is the one I'm kind of the most concerned about. Worst case scenario, I will set it right on top of the humidifier if I have to, just to make sure it's getting enough humidity, or I will cover it. I do have some plastic that I can put over it, dome out around it to help trap the moisture in around the plant. But like I said, it really only has to get through the next probably 2 to 4 weeks before the humidity level starts going back up around here. And then my house naturally is probably around like 50% humidity during the spring, summer, fall. So that's okay level for them. Ideally, they probably want it like closer to like 60, but it's not gonna like cause them to just totally freak out and die. Yeah, so these are my birthday plant haul plants. I know I feel weird using the word haul when there's only like 3 plants here, but you know what? Sometimes that's all you need is 3, and it's still a haul, especially when you don't know where you're gonna put them all. But yeah, so hopefully this was educational for you guys, as well as just fun to see these new plants. You have a little better idea of what to do with your plants when you get them home. And I will be, after these have been sequestered for about a week, I will give them the neem oil spray down. Well, I'll give the bambino the neem oil spray down. This one's probably not gonna get the neem oil. I just have a feeling that its leaves aren't going to like it. I will probably check some of my plant friends forums that own this plant and see what they're using to spray it down. But worst case scenario, I just don't spray it down. I give it another good like wipe down on the leaves or another run down in the shower, and then it should be good to go, as long as I've seen no bugs or anything, to move into other areas where other plants already are. So yeah, you guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this. Make sure you hit that like or subscribe button, or subscribe if you've done one but not the other, I guess. And make sure you let me know down in the comments if you own this plant in particular, or any of these plants, and have any experiences that you think would be helpful for me to know or anybody else to know. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Aloha!